Welcome back to Mental Health Through Will Training by Abraham A. Lowe. This is Section 2, Chapter 12, Subjective Wants and Objective Needs. Annette, on the Saturday panel, recalled an episode from the days when she was ill already, but had not yet joined recovery. The incident referred to an experience in her premarital life when, expecting a Valentine gift from her present husband, Clem, her expectations were disappointed. Valentine's Day came, she said, but there was no gift or card or any sort of token of attention. I got angry and tense and had a pain in my side and had no appetite for supper. When I made an effort to push down the food, forcing myself to eat, there was a tight feeling in my abdomen. I went to bed and cried and felt I had been let down. In the middle of the night, I awoke and had a strange sensation in the abdomen. I felt nauseated, went to the bathroom but couldn't vomit. Then I began to tremble all over. I felt wretched all the time. I boiled inside and was furious at Clem and worked myself up into a panic. About 2 years after this miserable night, Valentine's Day came around again. By that time, I had my recovery training and knew the difference between important things and matters that are trivial. And after dinner, I asked Clem calmly, "Did you forget Valentine's Day today?" He said, "No," and went to his coat and pulled out a box of candy. At that moment, I realized how I had changed. Annette failed to receive a box of candy, a Valentine's gift, and as a consequence worked herself up to such a degree of excitement that she developed an agonizing night of pain, tightness in the abdomen, nausea, tremors, and a boiling fury at her boyfriend and later husband, Clem. In other words, she disturbed the peace of her inner organs and the harmony of her marital life of because of a box of candy. At the time of the incident, Annette assures us she had not yet gone through the process of recovery training and did not know the difference between the important things and the matters that are trivial. Some years later, she had a similar experience but behaved in accord with recovery principles. Controlling temper and refusing to sacrifice inner and outer peace to a box of candy. At that moment, Annette commented, "I realized how I had changed." But does it take the cumbrous machinery of recovery training to make a person recognize the difference between trivial matters and important values? Between the relative insignificance of a Valentine gift and the supreme relevance of individual well-being and marital happiness? To make this distinction requires nothing more than a modicum of intelligence. From what we know about Annette today, she must have a generous amount of that commodity even before she joined recovery. And if she insists that has changed, the change cannot refer to her intellectual powers, but rather to her sense of values. What Annette learned in recovery, and what all my patients are expected to learn there, is to approach things with a proper set of valuations. It is your table of valuations which tells you what is important or trivial, what is essential and what is insignificant. In her pre-recovery days, Annette's table of valuations was in a muddle, contradictory, jumbled, and confused. Today, it is solid, stable, and balanced. And if this is so, Annette must have changed indeed. You may object to my manner of simplifying and distorting the story of a Valentine's Day gift. The meaning of that gift is by no means exhausted by calling it a box of candy. As a Valentine gift, it is meant to be a token of affection and attention. As such, it represented a value. And if Annette felt hurt and provoked because of that valuable object was denied her, is it fair to charge her with a poor sense of values? Another question may be properly asked. 2 years after her first incident, another Valentine's came around, and Annette's husband Clem arrived home without offering a gift. On that occasion, Annette raised no fuss about Clem's seeming lack of attention and affection. Due to her recovery training, she claims she now realized that a box of candy was a triviality. But attention and affection can hardly be trivialities. Was Annette's sense of values now blunted? Was it blunted precisely by that which vaunted thing that by that much vaunted thing we call recovery training? You see here that it is by no means easy to manipulate the sense of values. Briefly, a thing is valuable if it promotes inner peace leading to contentment, well being, self respect, or if it advances the cause of outer peace, resulting in adjustment to family, neighbors, friends, co workers. If your main aim is to secure peace, you are a realist. Then the attainment of inner and outer peace is your supreme value. Unfortunately, if life is nothing but peaceful, it is apt to acquire a note of drabness and monotony, a quality of dull routine with a conspicuous lack of variety and novelty. People are likely to be bored by an existence that is gently flowing along in an unruffled course with little change or newness. Many people crave activities which are flavored and spiced. They want a measure of excitement, stimulation, adventure. They prefer the thrill of dangerous living to peaceful, well settled, and thoroughly ordered daily round. To them, mere peace is deadening, flat, colorless, and lifeless, while excitement, thrill, and adventure are vitalizing, sparkling, and energizing. To many men and women, the supreme value is that which is interesting, agitating, stirring. If they are romantic, they want to be stirred by emotion. If they are intellectualists, they prefer the thrill of bold views and daring thoughts. Summing up, the realist strives for peace, the romanto intellectualist for thrill and excitement. Peace, order, and balance are the supreme values of the one, thrilling excitement, variety, and adventure those of the other. Unfortunately, many persons prefer romanto intellectualists' excitement to realistic peace. I shall admit that excitement producing thrills is the spice of life. It is not life, it is merely its spice. If spices are added to food, they contribute nothing to its value as nourishment. They merely make the food more tasty and palatable, more appetizing and desirable. But mark here that taste and palatability, appetite and desirability are highly personal and subjective. What is tasty to me may not at all suit your taste. What whets my appetite may blunt yours. My palate may be tempted by what yours is repelled by. My desires may run to things which you shun. Food is in a different class. You may dispense with spices altogether, but you cannot eliminate food from your life any more than I can. In other words, food is an objective need, spices are subjective wants. Returning to our original subject, we may conclude that peace is the food of life, a value and objective need, while excitement is merely the spice and thrill of life, a desirability, not a value, and nothing but a subjective want. I said that peace is a supreme value. This implies the existence of lesser and lower values. Such lower values are affection and attention, conversation and conviviality, joy and entertainment. They go by the name of mental comforts. Another series of lower values is concerned with the various desires for physical recreation, with the stimulation of food and drinks, with the effort to ease the exactations of daily routine, and with the craving for attractiveness in point of personal appearance and personal property. These go by the name of physical comforts. Both the thrills of excitement and the comforts of the lower values are legitimate pursuits if cultivated in moderation. However, if they clash with the aims and needs of the supreme value of peace, they must be suppressed or checked or controlled. To know which thrills to tolerate and which comforts to admit within one's scheme of life requires a delicately balanced sense of values. The sense of values is not born with you and must be acquired through training. The one to train you is your leader. It may be your parents, teachers, ministers, or anyone who knows the distinction between values on the one hand and thrills and comforts on the other. For the nervous patient, the proper source for leadership is his physician. My role as a leader of nervous patients is difficult and, in a sense, embarrassing. My patients suffer agonies of discomfort and torture. Hence, they desire a quick and immediate relief. This is their subjective want. It is legitimate and should be granted if possible. Unfortunately, a quick relief, even if it could be secured, is not a lasting cure. As your physician, I must insist on the final cure because it alone will restore your health. Relief is mere comfort, while health is of value. Health returns you to a useful and valuable life in family and community. Relief does nothing of the kind. I should like to relieve your discomfort, but my main endeavor is in regard to you the value of sustained mental health. There is another disturbing element in my function as leader to my patients. Handicapped by the torments of suffering, they are barred from an active social and occupational life. Their existence is therefore deprived of the excitement and thrills of stimulating experience, of accomplishment and self respect. Their daily round is carried on in an emotional void, in an atmosphere of drabness and boredom. In order to fill the void and escape the boredom, they want excitement. And if they cannot secure it in routine channels, they hunt for it in devious paths, in endless complaints, in all kinds of devious devices for attention getting, in tantrums and tempers. That these excitements are wants and not needs is obvious. Even these excitements might sometimes have a proper claim to toleration. But as your leader, I have the embarrassing obligation to emphasize needs in preference to wants. We shall now be in a better position to understand the meaning of the incident in which Annette disturbed her inner peace through symptoms and her outer peace through a clash with her fiancé. The missing Valentine gift meant to her a token of affection, mental comfort, and the anticipation of a surprise thrill. When the expected comfort and thrill were denied her, Annette threw a tantrum and jeopardized the values of health and marriage. With this, she displayed a tendency to favor subjective wants in preference to objective needs. But endowed with a good native intellect, it should have been easy for Annette to reason that needs are more important than wants, and that peace is more essential than thrills and comforts. Why did her intellect fail her? The answer is that a person's reasoning is powerfully influenced by the values cultivated in his group. And our contemporary group has placed a preposterous valuation on romanto intellectual wants to the detriment of realistic needs. This statement does not require detailed exposition. All you have to do is to inspect the system of education as practiced in our schools and colleges, and you will realize that present day teaching has the almost exclusive ambition to cater to the student's want of mental and physical comfort, and to pay far less attention to his need for training and discipline. That the modern home has abandoned the effort to train and discipline children is too well known to call for special mention. The average parent of today, encourages by popular philosophies and psychologies, gives his youngsters ample freedom to express their individualistic wants and to ignore the needs for group control and group discipline. If I add that the newspaper headlines, comic strips, radio, movies, and television fairly vie with one another in their sordid occupations to cater to the comforts and thrills of their readers, listeners, and viewers, I have about completed the circle of the sinister influences which today pervert the taste and corrupt the valuations of children and adults alike. Our modern media of education, in quotation marks, extol, knowingly and unwittingly, the superiority of wants over needs, and and the priority of thrills and comforts over discipline and values. Annette, in her pre recovery days, could not possibly escape the overpowering pressure of these organs of public opinion, and from them imbibed the pernicious contemporary philosophy which favors subjective wants and scorns the value of objective needs. This modern philosophy was largely responsible for her ailment and her torturing symptoms, and might have wrecked her marriage had not recovery intervened and made her revise her faulty sense of values. Okay, that's it for today. Next time we'll be reading chapter 13, The Unconvincing Complaint. Thank you for joining me.